I am in a particularly good mood. I'm in a good mood. Hope where you are, you're in a good mood too. I've got an itchy ear, but I'm in a good mood. Let me tell you why. Um, UPS and DHL and FedEx all came today. All with fun little toys for me to play with having to do with film photography. And it's just I got three lenses today. One for my very first camera. My very first camera was a Pentax K1000. I still take pictures with that Pentax K1000. And when I got that, it was Christmas of 1989. I had just turned 14 years old. I was a freshman in high school, and I got the Pentax K1000 with a 50 millimeter normal lens. I have only had that 50 millimeter lens for that camera since 1989. And today, the delivery guy came with a 40 to 80 for that Pentax. Nice little lens made by Pentax, whatever 40 years ago, that I could not afford back then, and now I'm just chuffed about it. It's so cool. Also, today came two lenses for my enlarger, one 50 millimeter Nikkor, one 80 millimeter Nikkor. So I've got brand spanking new old stock lenses, one for 35 millimeter film, one for 120 film. I shoot 6x7 with this camera right chair. And then in addition to that, I got a new 35 millimeter rolling reel. I got a new 120 rolling reel. I got a new steel tank. I mean, is there a better day for a hobbyist photographer who's been doing this forever and who is rediscovering darkroom black and white photography? I don't think there can be a better day. In fact, what I decided to do was I took a camera, the very camera, Autumn. Where is it? I think I took it downstairs. The very camera that our intrepid lead moderator, Autumn, gave me as a gift, an old Canon EOS Rebel G, I think is what it is, an EF lens. I took that out to do some photography today and completely fell in the river. I was able to keep the camera dry, though. I was not able to keep my phone dry, but the camera survived. It's been a good day for me. I hope it's been a good day for you too. It's been a good day for a lot of people. Not so much the city of Canton, the Massachusetts State Police, because that's what we're going to be talking about today. Karen Reed has filed a new lawsuit. This is in addition to her federal lawsuit against Canton and the MSP. And we got the lawsuit. It's 87 pages, but most of that, like 57 pages of it, is exhibits. That's like the federal lawsuit. So, but we're going to go over the main lawsuit, and boy, is it explosive, y'all. We're going to do that. We are going to do 3 questions. We've got headlines to go over in the Nancy Guthrie case, the Lynette Hooker case, the trial of Carmelo Anthony, and a strange and just terrible crime where a man in California got a 216-year sentence. We're going to get into that. We've got some good news coming out of Mount Everest, which is pretty darn great. But why don't we start with the question of the day? The question of the day to get us started in the live chat is this. What do you think really happened to John O'Keefe? Your theories are welcome, okay? What do you think happened to John O'Keefe? Tell me in the live chat and in the comments. And then let's try to pack this 10 gallons of show into a 5-gallon container. Stay with me. This video contains mature themes and discussions intended only for adult audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello there, my friend. Welcome back to another true crime conversation with me, Gavin Fish. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for liking and subscribing and sharing and doing all the things that makes it possible to have a successful YouTube channel. Your support just absolutely means the world to me, and I cannot thank you enough. But I'll try. Thank you. Thank you so much. If you're into true crime, if you like to cut past all the fluff, if you like to cut past the sensationalism, you like to get to the nitty-gritty, this is the channel for you. This is where we get into both the nitty and the gritty. And if this is your first time here, I'm glad that you found me. Please, wherever you're tuning in from, tell me also in the live chat. And the way to do it on my channel is put GF in your comment, and that will help me to be able to see the comment easily on my side. Okay, so put GF in your comment when you're answering the question of the day, when you're telling me where you're tuning in from. Anytime you are like, hey, I want to talk to Gavin about this, put a GF in there. It really helps me on my side. It highlights it on my side. Let's check in to see what you guys are saying over here. Mooney says the Pentax K1000. I don't know about the K100. Is there a K100? Or did you mean K1000? Now I'm curious. Is there a Pentax K100? Is there? There is. Well, there's the 100D, but maybe that was a digital camera. The 1000, I think, is probably what you meant. I love that camera. I've got so many fond memories of that camera, or with that camera, and I've got so many great photographs that were all taken with that camera. I'm looking over to the side of my office here. I'm still going through negatives, getting them all organized from, just finding so many negatives in all over the basement, basically. But I love it. I love it. And it's time for a service. It has never been serviced in the almost 40 years that I've owned it. So that will be happening soon. Barb Olson says, it's just like Christmas. I was opening presents all day today. It was amazing. Autumn says, please send me some pictures when you develop some. Autumn, I've actually got a plan for a photograph for you. I'm waiting, because of the particular photograph that I want to take, I'm waiting for a filter to arrive. However, please hold. This is my camera bag from when I was 14 years old. Okay. Need to reach in here. Okay. In the camera bag is this little pleather thing that I had forgotten was in there. These were all of the filters that I owned from the ages of like 14 to 18. And the filter that I ordered in order to take that photo that I have in mind for you, Autumn, is I own it. I have had it since the 90s. It's this filter. We live in Pennsylvania. So let me bring it into frame here. We live in Pennsylvania where there's lots of green foliage, and it's very difficult to get a good panographic photograph of greenery without the proper filtration. And I have a photo in mind just for Autumn. I ordered the filter and then found my 40-year-old filter, not quite, maybe let's call it a 35-year-old filter today, in this stack, this meager little stack of filters that I've had for years and years. So yeah, don't you even fret, Autumn. I have got you covered. I've got a good plan for you. What is it? Teresa says, howdy from Waco, Texas. Glad you are here. 3 Doxies from Arkansas checking in. Thank you very much for checking in with me. Let's see. It just refreshed. Coffee Time for D says, I think the son of the owner did something and they covered it up. That is your answer to the question of the day. What really happened to John O'Keefe? Coffee Time for D is Saudi Daisy. Oregon is in the house. Thank you very much. Maine is here. Tracy says, I've thought about this for a long time and I still don't know what happened. I think he may have tripped on the ice and fallen backwards, hitting his head, but I don't know if I am right. Is it possible it was just a crazy accident? Springfield, Illinois. UNC Tar Heels says, someone in that house did it, not sure which one. Sharky checking in from Lake Tahoe. Tracy checking in from Prague. Mooney did mean the 1,000. Tabby says, Gavin, you have an email. I have a question, but I don't want to change the subject of the video. Yeah, you can reach out to me anytime by going to the old website, gavinfish.com. It looks like this. And if you click on this envelope icon, that will get to a form where you can contact me. The reason I do a form is because people were complaining that I wasn't getting their emails. And with the form, I always get them because not only does it email me, but it also saves it in the website backend. So I check from time to time to make sure that I've seen everything. So Tabby, that is the best way to get in touch with me. Thank you for asking. Lynn Taylor says, I think someone in the house is being protected and the dog is very suspicious. Yeah, that dog. I agree. I've thought that those were bite marks from the beginning. Elizabeth says, for the question of the day, I think something happened in the house. The actions of the occupants doesn't add up to me, in my opinion. Shay says, your chat saved me yesterday. I was in a real bad place, but everyone's kindness made me realize I'm not alone. God bless everyone. Well, I am glad, Shay, and you are welcome here. And I hope today is a better day for you. And you're always welcome here. Never alone. Never. You're never alone. Thank you for checking in and thanks for sharing that with us. Aruba is in the house. Thank you very much. Northern Kentucky is here. Missouri is here. And hello from the Emerald City. We've got Georgia in the house. Priestess Liberty says, checking in from Spencer's Gifts in Colorado Springs on my lunch break. I have not been in a Spencer's Gifts in a long time. My goodness, that's awesome. Nana Rock says, I followed this case when Karen Reed was in trial. In my opinion, John O'Keefe was in the backyard when he got accosted by the dog, fell, hit his head. Then the owners got the dog out of there, brought John to the front. Yeah, I wonder if we will ever know. Thank you guys for playing along. Thanks for getting us started on the live chat. You guys are amazing. All right. Where should we go? Let's do a recap just real quick, and I'm going to show it. I'm going to bring it up. Yeah, forgive the amateur hourness of the little, I guess, keynote presentation here. This is just a very quick recap, right? Okay. So January 28th and 29th of 2022, Karen Reed and Officer John O'Keefe went out to Canton, Mass. With a group that included Brian and Nicole Albert, Jennifer and Matthew McCabe, and Brian Higgins. In the early morning hours of January 29th, O'Keefe was found unresponsive in the snow outside 34 Fairview Road, the Canton home of Brian and Nicole Albert. Reed, Jennifer McCabe, and Carrie Roberts found him while searching for him that morning. O'Keefe died after being taken to the hospital. Prosecutors allege Reed struck him with her Lexus SUV and left him outside during a snowstorm. Reed was arrested on February 1st, 2022, initially on charges including manslaughter, motor vehicle homicide, and leaving the scene. In June of 2022, she was indicted on second-degree murder, manslaughter while operating under the influence, leaving the scene of a crash causing death. Her defense argued that she was framed. They claimed O'Keefe entered 34 Fairview, was injured during an altercation, and was later placed outside. They also focused on alleged conflicts. missing evidence, deleted phone data, and the handling of Reed's SUV and taillight evidence. First trial began in April of 2024, drew national attention. It ended July 1, 2024 in a mistrial after the jury could not reach a verdict. During the first trial, Michael Proctor's texts became a major flashpoint. The lead Massachusetts State Police investigator had sent vulgar, demeaning messages about Reed, raising questions about bias and the integrity of the investigation. And some of these are in the lawsuit. Just a little bit of a trigger warning. I don't like salty language, so I won't be actually saying the words, but we'll be reading it. After the mistrial, Proctor was removed from the Norfolk DA Detective Unit. The MSP later disciplined others connected to the investigation. Second trial took place in 2025. On June 18th, Reed was acquitted of all charges connected to O'Keefe's death. I thought that he was also fired from the MSP. I had a Codex do this for me, but I can't remember. Somebody help me out. Reed later filed a federal civil lawsuit against Proctor, Buchanan, Tully, the town of Canton, Brian Nicole Albert, Jennifer Matthew McCabe, and Brian Higgins. The federal lawsuit alleges malicious prosecution, civil rights violations, emotional distress, and conspiracy. It claims investigators and private defendants worked to frame Reed and shield the people inside 34 Fairview. And on June 4th, 2026, that is today, Reed filed a new state court lawsuit against the MSP and the town of Canton. So those are the broad strokes of what has happened here. That is missing a lot of information, right? But that's basically where we got here. Now, the lawsuit, like I said before, is 87 pages long. But it's mostly the exhibit of the federal lawsuit, which we don't need to get into. So it's only about 30 pages. And as lawsuits go, that's actually pretty short. So let me bring you over here. Boom. Rauture. So you can kind of see this was filed today. It's in Bristol Superior Court. The court clerk stamped it today. This is Karen Reed v. the Massachusetts State Police and the town of Canton. And let's just dive in, shall we? We'll zoom on up so you can see it. All right, complaint. Introduction. Paragraph 1. The not guilty verdict in Commonwealth v. Karen Reed on June 18th, 2025. Man, that's almost been a year. Holy cow. Did not merely end a wrongful prosecution. It shone an unflinching spotlight on something the Massachusetts State Police, MSP, and the Town of Canton Police Department, CPD, have spent years trying to conceal. An embedded culture of bigotry, misogyny, systemic failures, and institutional rot at the very core of both organizations. As a result of this entrenchment, Ms. Reed now files this action against MSP and CPD for their negligent hiring, training, and supervision of biased and corrupt police officers whose actions violated her constitutional rights and caused her immense harm. At the heart of Ms. Reed's claims lies a distressing narrative, one not just about individual rights, but about fundamental principles upon which our society is built. By the way, I should pause here for a second. I am reading this as I believe the writer wrote it, right? Enthusiastically with I don't know, gusto, right? I'm not, I don't know that I agree with everything in this. It's just, this is the way it's written. It's written like a monologue, like a soliloquy, right? And so that's just why I'm reading it that way. Through this action, the MSP and CPD will now be forced to answer for their police officers' unlawful conduct against Ms. Reed that is set forth in detail below, but also for the insidious culture of bigotry and misogyny that fostered such unlawful conduct and has likely resulted in other unconstitutional criminal investigations in which countless unknown others have also suffered. Oh, dude, they said it. They said it. They're like, yeah, this isn't going to stop with Karen Reed. I bet there's lots of others. This is what Ned Pillersdorf said when I talked to him about the, it's the Mickey Steins case, but really it's the Sabrina Adkins lawsuit, right? That if there's one in the Letcher County Jail, Letcher County, Kentucky, if you guys don't know this, I should probably bring up, this is the case of Judge Kevin Mullins, who was shot to death in his own chamber, by Mickey Steins. In fact, there's a lot of parallels here, right? I mean, Mickey Steins was being sued as the sheriff for the exact kind of things that were happening or alleged to be happening in this lawsuit. The kind of the misogyny, the corruption, the lack of training, that sort of stuff, right? So this is, there's just a lot of parallels between these two cases. But okay. Countless. Oh, that's why I went over to Judge Mullins. Let me go back there. Kevin Mullins. Okay, Ned Pillersdorf, this guy right here. He represented Sabrina Adkins and Jennifer Hill, who brought charges against Mickey Steins and Ben Fields. Well, a criminal complaint, let's say, alleging SA, and then that Mickey Steins knew what was going on and did nothing to stop it. So we now have three police forces that have these allegations against them. We have to be careful of the unintended consequences, right? I mean, I'm not saying that Sabrina Adkins and Jennifer Hill are responsible for Mickey Steins' behavior, but he got so worked up and scared about this, in my opinion, that he up and shot Kevin Mullins. So what's going to happen in the Karen Reed case, right? What is going to happen when we start to see depositions, if it gets that far? I don't know. All right. Indeed, the MSP and CPD have avoided facing this very moment for years, but it's now time for the long-awaited transparency and accountability owed to the citizens of this Commonwealth. Former MSP Detective Michael Proctor and former, as of 2 days ago, CPD Sergeant Sean Cook. Do I have a picture of Proctor? I did not. Not Sean Cook, Sean Goode or Goody. I didn't get Proctor ready. Can't believe I didn't get Proctor ready. Got to get that fixed. But here's Sean. All right. Are virulent bigots whose hatred for anyone and everyone different from themselves permeates their every action. They are not officers who occasionally voiced an offensive remark. They are men whose written and recorded communications sent to one another and to a circle of like-minded friends over the course of a decade establish entrenched and unrepentant hatred for women, Black Americans, Asian Americans, Jews, Hispanics, Arabs, and gay people. Their unfitness for any position of public trust was not subtle. It was extensively documented, as set forth below, knowable to MSP and CPD long before either agency assigned them to investigate and prosecute Ms. Reed. Proctor's and Goody's involvement. Is it Goode or Goody? I'm not sure. Somebody help me in the live chat, will you? Their involvement at the outset of this investigation into the death of John J. O'Keefe III invariably and irredeemably contaminated it in every respect. as depicted in thousands of written and audio messages that the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office has thus far hidden from public view, and far from the inclusive values that both organizations publicly claim to pursue, Proctor and Goode secretly and proudly wore badges of hate. Indeed, bigotry guided their every act as law enforcement officers for years, but such conduct remained disguised by the uniforms they wore and obscured by the support and encouragement they received inside the walls of the very institutions designed to prevent such injustice and protect the public. Let me just check, see if you guys are helping me out with the pronunciation here. Doesn't look like it, not yet. Let's see. A couple of comments though. Proctor has been fired. Thank you very much, Tar Heel. That's what I thought. Let's see. Goode resigned 2 days ago. That is correct. Nana Rock says, Gavin, you'll be shocked when you get all the details. It was like the department right out of the cable network TV. Indeed. UNC Tar Heel. It is good. Good pronounced as if there's no E. Thank you. Okay. Good like bad. All right. You guys are awesome. Thank you for helping me out. Okay. So Sean, good. All right. Paragraph 5. For the MSP and CPD who hired, trained, supervised, and observed these two for years, Proctor's and Goode's hateful and despicable views were not only part of their own daily vernacular, but were woven through the fabric of their organization's culture and everyday conversations. And then there are some conversations here. After telling Goode about a multi-car accident in Canton, quote, actually, take your time. I saw an N-word was involved, so I wouldn't rush if you're working. Let them die. Oh my goodness. You gotta be kidding. Whoa. Whoa. That is way beyond what I was expecting. Oh my goodness. Oh. Oh my goodness. My new VP is a giant malignant C word. I pray to the heavens that some effed up insect from the Amazon crawls up her V, hatches eggs, and the litter kills her by eating her from the inside out. Michael Proctor. Biggest C, Sean Goode says. Guys, I don't think I can read this part. I'm not going to read a couple of these things. He uses the N-word again. Went into Canton High this morning to get a transcript and saw more N-words in 10 minutes than the 4 years I spent there combined. Everywhere I looked, there was, oh my goodness. Wow. I'm not reading that out loud. Whoa. C word, N word, a slur for an Asian, more N words, a slur for Jewish folks, more N words, more Asian slurs. More N-words, more Jewish slurs, more N-words, more N-words, more Asian slurs. America sucks. Hitler was really onto something. Wow. Oh, guys, that is way worse. That, you know, I didn't think that of course, I'm not naive. I know that there's bigotry. I know that that exists, but I thought we were beyond this point of it. I thought that we were on the downhill slope. Wow. Oh my goodness. Wow. Ooh, I am honestly uncomfortable moving on. Okay, paragraph 6. Indeed, throughout the course of their friendship, which dates back to high school, Goode and Proctor bonded over the warped prism through which they both view their surroundings and the individuals they encounter in their personal and professional lives. These distorted worldviews were shaped by unimaginable hatred and intolerance through which they dehumanized others, often wishing violence or death on them, demeaning them, or even suggesting planting evidence on them to cause them harm. In written and recorded audio conversations beginning in 2013, the year MSP hired Proctor, and when Goode was already an officer with CPD, and for almost a decade later, these two law enforcement officers referred to community members whom they encountered as all of this horrible stuff. Wow. Proctor and Goode believed these folks were polluting the neighborhoods in which they lived and worked and where they eventually served. They did more than just subscribe to and act in conformance with their bigotry. They actually memorialized in writing and voice messages to their like-minded friends. Not a few communications, thousands of them. They discussed sharing private nude pictures of women and intentionally, ejaculating on women while they slept. Few protected classes, community members, or public figures were spared. And I'm just going to get over those. Paragraph 9. Put simply, they were then and now, Put simply, they were then and are now completely and unquestionably unfit to hold positions of authority with MSP and CPD, much less to play important roles, or in Ms. Reed's case, the primary role in homicide investigations. And despite that, despite that CPD had received, reviewed, verified, and analyzed these same messages nearly a year ago, Sergeant Goode remained employed with full rank as a sworn police officer by the CPD until 2 days ago. Paragraph 10. On January 29th, 2022, the MSP and CPD unleashed these two misogynist bigots on Ms. Reed to work on the conflicted and corrupt investigation into the death of Mr. O'Keefe. It did not take long to trigger their hatred and target Ms. Reed. Indeed, Proctor, Goode, other police officers, and their respective organizations understood the assignment once their fellow cops and friends, Brian and Nicole Albert, there's Brian Albert right there, Matthew and Jennifer McCabe, I've got Jennifer McCabe right there, and Brian Higgins, referred to as house defendants in Ms. Reed's pending federal court action, falsely reported that Mr. O'Keefe, quote, never went inside the house, close quote. Even though his face was battered and bruised, he had dog bites and scratches on his arm, and he had a severe laceration on the back of his head that could only have come from a backward fall onto a ridged surface in the house rather than a flat front lawn. Law enforcement began immediately targeting and framing the female outsider, Ms. Reed. Paragraph 11. As the MSP's assigned lead investigator, and without knowing any more about Ms. Reed than she was an outsider and a female, Proctor openly exposed his ossified prejudice when he described her to his group chat buddies as a R-word, whack job, C-word, with no back end that leaks poo, whom they decided 16 hours into the investigation had zero chance of skating. She's effed, he pronounced. Proctor intended to make the investigation cut and dry so he and his close-knit circle of friends could pin it on the girl. Immediately after Ms. Reed's arrest, Goode made the same type of sexualized and dehumanizing comment about Ms. Reed's medical conditions and physical appearance that he and Proctor peddled in the hallways of their organizations on a daily basis. Every girl will want a brain tumor, multiple sclerosis, colitis if you can look like that in yoga pants after killing your boyfriend. Meanwhile, as Goode pondered Ms. Reed in yoga pants, Proctor seized Ms. Reed's phone and launched immediately into a search for naked pictures of her, only to report back to his colleagues and friends, disappointingly, no nudes so far. But as he wrote to others, as the investigation began, he hoped that she unalived herself. MSP and CPD's investigative approach was born out of Proctor's and Goode's perverse and depraved pattern of singling out and vilifying an outsider while protecting the blue line and their families. This was, of course, made more palatable by dehumanizing Ms. Reed. With the help of Goode and CPD, Proctor and his colleagues at MSP, including his direct supervisor, Yuri Buchanek, conducted a fundamentally conflicted and corrupt investigation where the where the goal was to pin it on the girl, and which included rampant violations of policies, procedures, and ethical rules. For example, as described further below, despite the overwhelming evidence that Mr. O'Keefe was inside the house at 34 Fairview Road, they did not search the home for blood, fingerprints, or DNA evidence. The house was neither processed nor photographed by a forensic criminalist. Indeed, the investigators did not even walk into the crime scene house until a week later, and then only for a pro forma visit and brief interview of Nicole Albert. No effort was made to secure evidence from the Alberts' German Shepherd, even though Mr. O'Keefe's body was found in the front yard with fresh and obvious dog bites and scratches on his right arm. Nor did Proctor, Buchanek, or their MSP colleagues conduct any physical examination of the house defendants or attempt to seize their phones. The investigators did not attempt to secure the crime scene, document evidence, collect biological material, videotape or record interviews, take DNA control samples, geolocate digital devices at the scene, collect electronic devices, secure surveillance footage, create a crime scene log, or maintain even the most basic chains of custody in accordance with well-established investigative protocol. Again, this is as alleged by Karen Reed and her team. Paragraph 15. Worse yet, with the help of others at both the MSP and CPD, Proctor and Buchanek manufactured evidence to ensure that Ms. Reed was blamed for Mr. O'Keefe's death, intentionally diverting attention away from Proctor's friends and fellow law enforcement officers. This included planting evidence at the scene, on Mr. O'Keefe's clothes, and on Ms. Reed's vehicle to support the House defendant's false narrative that Ms. Reed struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle, notwithstanding that the investigators knew Mr. O'Keefe's injuries were inconsistent with a motor vehicle strike and consistent with the physical altercation and dog attack. Among other failures, MSP's and CPD's delegation of power and authority to those as biased, corrupt, and bigoted as Proctor and Goode led to Ms. Reed's being wrongfully accused of homicide for 3.5 years and subjected to suspicion, 2 arrests, 2 prosecutions and public trials, and public condemnation. Indeed, with the exercise of ordinary care, both MSP and CPD would have known that Proctor, Goode, and others were unfit for service from the beginning. Incredibly, Proctor himself acknowledged this fact in 2017 after 4 years on the job, telling his friends, quote, "No idea how I passed the background," close quote. Now, after being twice acquitted of all charges relating to Mr. O'Keefe's death, Ms. Reed brings this action to recover for and address MSP's and CPD's actions, inactions, and negligent failures to ensure that justice was sought and served in the aftermath of January 29, 2022. To be clear, however, this Javi, I'm having a hard time. I need just take some water. Let's take a break. Let's take a little bit of a break. We'll finish out this section, then let's go to comments. To be clear, however, this complaint transcends Ms. Reed's personal and actionable grievance. Rather, it is a clarion call for reform and accountability. Cloaked with the emblem of authority, MSP and CPD and their employees, Proctor, Goode, and others, betrayed their sworn commitment to uphold the law. Their prejudices undermine our very democratic principles of wielding the great force of government over those who are vulnerable and powerless. MSPs and CPD's cultures of intolerance, hidden from the public but in plain sight within these organizations, cannot stand unchallenged. MSP and CPD are culpable and must confront the consequences of their institutional negligence. Love to hear what you guys are saying so far. My goodness. I don't blush easily, guys. I was not going to show what was written there, and nor was I going to say it. My goodness. Crazy. Yeah, Analytical One said, this is not even the worst. You're just getting started. Gavin, it gets worse. Oh, my goodness. They are all very bad, says UNC Tar Heel. Nana Rocks, I wasn't kidding. Sorry. Analytical One, they used all the slurs. None were immune. G Malu says, we want to hear it all. I just won't say it. I'm sorry. I just won't use that language, man. It is bad. It is so bad. Cater Fate, Gavin, it's way worse than anyone thought, so gird your loins. Indeed. Nanarok says, did you know that Proctor got rid of the dog and sold his home as soon as was legally possible? Yeah. And Jules and me says, so the DA did not have these chats? No, the DA, what they're saying is the DA had them and has kept them from public view. Crazy. Let's see. Tio Toys says, I was wondering how Gavin was going to read these. His reaction to his first. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to listen to. It's tough to read. And you guys can read all this. This is available on like boston.com and stuff like that. I'm not gatekeeping it. You can have it. Okay. Parties, jurisdiction, we can just kind of yada yada, incorporated facts. Let me see. Exhibit it. Yeah, incorporated facts within the exhibits. By the way, let's see, we're on page 10 now. I think the exhibit starts at like 37. No, there it is. So audio files found on attached USB drives. Obviously, we don't have that exhibit. And then exhibit 2 is the federal case. So they have these on audio and they've attached them as exhibits, though I don't have them. Okay. All right. Additional facts. Proctor's and Goode's ingrained misogyny, racism, homophobia, anti-Semitism, and other biases. I refuse to say biases. It's biases. Come on. We don't do whatever. It doesn't matter. Gavin, you just relax, buddy. All right. Paragraph 28. By January 29th, 2022, Proctor and Goode, both inveterate bigots, had long-standing and deeply held biases against women, as well as almost every other protected class of people other than white, male, non-Jewish police officers. Wow. They're carving out. They got a type, right? They're carving out. Male, white, except Jews, and they have to be police officers. Other than that, everybody else sucks. Wow. Proctor's and Goode's clear willingness and tendency to dehumanize, judge, and evaluate people and circumstances based on their hatred and biases significantly contributed to their willingness to embrace the narrative provided by the House defendants and target Ms. Reed, leading to the destruction of her career, her financial stability, and her very freedom, as well as the emotional and physical harm caused by 2 years-long prosecutions. Not 2 years long, 2 years-long prosecutions and trials for a crime she did not commit. Ah, my nosy itches. Sorry, guys. Paragraph 29. Proctor's and Goode's reservoir of vituperation. Vituperation? Vituperation, you say? Vituperation, Gavin needs to look up vituperation definition. I love learning new words. Vituperation means bitter, abusive, or violently critical language. It refers to harsh, venomous speech or writing used to condemn, blame, or express deep-seated ill will towards someone. Vituperation, a noun, derives from the Latin words vitium, meaning a fault, and parare, meaning to provide, combining to mean to disparage or to blame. Vituperation. Okay, well, there is your Latin, your etymology language lesson of the day. Okay, so Proctor and Goode's reservoir of vituperation, which we now know what it means, fed by their staggering prejudices and the extent to which they were willing to pass judgment on others based solely on gender, race, religion, or sexual orientation, are apparent from each of their contributions to the cesspool of abject hatred reflected in their group chats and email chains with their friends. Oh, guys, we've got more quotes. This is not going to be good. Beginning in 2013, below is a selection of those messages. Oh, no. Okay, hold on. Ooh. I tell you what, let's get a picture of John O'Keefe up. Okay, messages sent by Proctor. Even during MSP's hiring process, Michael Proctor could not contain his bigoted views. On February 26, 2013, Proctor wrote to his friends, quote, "Hey, D-heads," referring to the male appendage, the tip, so to speak. "Just wanted to give you two a heads up that you guys may get a call from a state trooper named Scott Cooper, who's doing my background check. Don't know who, how far back they're going to go with this stuff, but didn't want to have this guy catch you off guard." Proctor's friend responded, "No problem, but what are we supposed to say? Last time the Boston Police Department lady was grilling me for exact dates as to when and how long you lived in Brighton, how we paid rent, and to who, etc. Anything specific we should be aware of?" Proctor responded, "That lady was an absolute C-word, rag, N-word who had it in for bear," referring to himself in the third person for his nickname. "Talk to this guy for a half hour today, and I would be shocked he pulled the same S as her just from how she acted with me on the phone." I don't know that let's bring up Karen's picture here. This is Proctor talking. "Apparently, MSP did not pull the same S as the Boston Police Department, who did not hire him during these interviews, because MSP hired Proctor. It hired him at the time Proctor was constantly sharing countless messages with his friends and other law enforcement officers that illustrate the extreme and aggressive prejudices and biases he held against women, people of color, the LGBTQ community, and others. Proctor's views even polluted his thinking about MSP's hierarchy and leadership. Quote, if that person is black, they will probably make him the next colonel of the state police. Paragraph 35. Much of Proctor's aggression and hatred, however, was directed at women. In fact, from the time of his hire at MSP through the time he began investigating Ms. Reed, Proctor shared countless messages with his friends about his perspectives on women. Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that again. Not going to say that. Not going to say that. Thick pigs, Michael Proctor says. Not going to say that. Discussing needing a roofie or something to find a sexual partner. Wow. Oh, wow. Ain't gonna happen. She will pass out at 9 and I will stay up until midnight drinking and watching movies. I could swoop in for the kill when she's asleep, though. Oh, I'm not gonna say that. Ah, wow. Wow. Okay. During the same time, Proctor also prolifically messaged his friends about his similar hatred of black, Asian, Hispanic, Arab, and Jewish people. After observing a multi-car accident and initially informing Goode in case he was on duty, Proctor followed up with, you know, it was using an N-word that was involved. Don't rush, let him die. Wow. Literally hate 99% of the people I meet, see, and deal with. Dudes went into Canton High this morning to get a transcript. Yeah, he says that. I can't believe he said that. Not going to say that. Not going to say that. Not going to say that. Wow. Not going to say that. Not going to say that. Wow. Whew. Yikes. Oh, okay. I gotta just keep going, guys. I can't. I can't. I can't. I don't even want to read it. Oh my goodness sake! I honestly didn't think it was possible in today's world for somebody that bad to still exist. Whew. Okay, paragraph 37. In addition to these horrific statements indicating the extent to which he believed those with backgrounds and characteristics similar to him, white male, were superior to others, women, non white, Proctor also wasn't shy about his other proclivities that made him patently unfit for service, including that more than once Proctor discussed planting coke on people and shoving a nightstick up somebody's derriere. Proctor recognized his inadequacy in 2017, writing that he had no idea how he passed the background, although he did explain that MSP detective units do the background checks for applicants. They allowed a girl into the next academy who admitted to using cocaine and ecstasy and recently used those drugs. Okay, messages sent by Goode. I'm going to have to yada yada most of this too, guys. CPD Sergeant Goode was no more discreet about his own biased and deranged views. Like Proctor, and while a CPD officer, Goode regularly referred to and discussed women in venomous ways. C word, fat C word, a real C word, effing C word, the biggest C word, a little C word. Wow. He also displayed the same racial and religious supremacist viewpoints as Proctor, which, like his misogyny, impacted how he viewed the members of the public he encountered on a regular basis as a police officer. Among others, Goode sent these messages while he was a CPD officer. So, slur for a woman and a Jew, N-word, Asian slurs, Jewish slurs, Asians. It's just bad. It's just bad, guys. It's just bad. Wow. Goode also shared similar disdain for homosexual members of the community in Canton and elsewhere, referring to them repeatedly as these slurs. Like Proctor, Goode exhibited more in these messages than just his bias and hate. He also showed that he lacks the basic discretion and neutrality required of a police officer deputized to protect and serve all members of the community, regardless of skin color and ethnicity, gender, religious beliefs, and or sexual orientation. As just one example, in 2022, as an 18-year veteran of CPD, Goode shared his views in writing on Sandra Birchmore. Oh no. Oh, wrong button, Gavin. Wrong button. It doesn't matter. Okay, we'll go back here. Okay, Sandra Birchmore, a young woman who tragically died the year before in Canton and whose death was initially ruled as self-inflicted until federal authorities discovered that multiple officers from neighboring town Stoughton's police department had been SAing Ms. Birchmore when she was a minor. After federal authorities investigated, they charged a former Stoughton police officer with her murder, and her death is now classified as a homicide at the federal level. The Norfolk County DA's office early this year changed her death from self-inflicted to undetermined. Against this backdrop, Goode told his friends that that chick was borderline R-word. Goode also helped his friends avoid repercussions for what appears to have been their regular practice of driving drunk. Sobriety checkpoint on 138 by the trail side tonight. Please stay away tonight. Can't help you if you get caught. Too many troopers and Milton PD keep this info between us. So wrong, man. He apparently relished his ability to use his institutional power, authority, and access to illegally obtain information about women he encountered in his daily life. Writing in 2015, haha, can't wait to look this C word up tonight at work. Wow. I promise I'm not a naive person, but I am shocked. I am full on shocked that not only that a person or people like this exist, but that they are so overt that they would just so overtly communicate these things, that they feel safe in their groups. Wow. Okay, MSP and CPD knew or should have known about Proctor's and Goode's bigotry. Let me go over to what your comments are here real quick. I need a break. Let's see. Cooler by the Lake. I wonder if there are other provable instances of framing other defendants. Provable is the hard part, right? I mean, look what Karen Reed had to go through. But I'm sure there are instances of framing other people. Debbie says, an itchy nose means you're going to kiss a fool. It's a saying my mom uses. Oh my goodness. You're calling my sweetie pie, my snuggly bear, my one and only foolish? She's the only person I kiss. That's funny. 3 doxies, 1 prince. Could this go federal? Wow. There already is a federal lawsuit happening. Spinster says Gavin is so nice he can't even read Proctor's text. Yeah, I don't want to. I just can't. Shay says, Gavin, it's okay. You're too sweet. Sharky Sharona says they're all over the place. A bunch of fearful cowards. Yeah, I one time was on a business trip, and I think I was in. It doesn't matter. I think I was at like Newark or LaGuardia, and a guy made like really off-colored remarks and bigoted, terrible remarks about a couple of other passengers who were obviously Jewish. And then he looked me straight in the eye and winked like, you know what I'm talking about. Like, yeah, we're the same here. And I full on had to say out loud, you and I are not the same. Stop talking to me. I had to do like, oh. Analytical one says, it's alarming, but unfortunately, some of us know this level of hatred may have been stymied, but it's definitely not gone. Yeah. I just, in like my grandparents' generation, and I don't like to look at people through the lens of having the benefit of being born later. Right? My grandparents' time was a way more bigoted and a bigoted time. And I think here's the thing. Bill Maher said it best, I think, and I agree with him that had we been born back then, we probably would be the same way they were. A lot of people don't want to believe that, but I think we probably would have been. We have the benefit of years of evolution, of thought evolution, right? But having looked at the generations, my grandparents' generation, my parents' generation, and now my generation, now my children's generation, I can see that it is better. I can, among the people that I associate with. But reading this, like, actually kind of drags me down. I can't believe that people are still like this. This is the kind of stuff that you expected in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, right? Not now. Oh, Coffee Time for D says, I hope this causes people to see we are not past these types of things. We have a long way to go. So glad you're covering this too. Thank you. Holly says, OMG, Gavin, I'm just as shocked as you are. Glad I'm sitting down. Yeah. Proctor admitted to planting evidence in those texts, Gavin. Crazy. Debbie says, I feel for you. I would have stopped reading those documents too. Yeah, it's tough. This is like seriously offensive, man. So bad. My goodness. Okay. We've taken a good break. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being understanding as well. There's some things I just don't, wow. It doesn't matter. Okay. Paragraph 47. Proctor and Goode's biases, bigotry, and personal histories were known or should have been known to MSP and CPD when they were hired, trained, promoted, and supervised. They not only were the MSP and CPD on notice of Proctor's and Goode's troubling views and intolerant attitudes towards various members of the community they were sworn to protect and serve during the underlying investigation into Mr. O'Keefe's death, but Proctor's supervisors knew Proctor had a close relationship with the Alberts, and that Proctor made no secret of his bias against Ms. Reed, demonstrating a clear prejudice against her from the outset. For its part, CPD refuses to acknowledge its role in this debacle of an investigation or recognize the significant flaws in its hiring, training, and supervising practices, illustrated by Goode's continued role as a sergeant for the CPD until 2 days ago when, upon information and belief, CPD was informed by MSP's counsel that this complaint would soon be filed. So he quit before it was filed. Helpful right to the end, CPD then permitted Goode to resign 2 days before the filing of this complaint rather than firing him, and thus saving him from the reputational and financial implications of being terminated for cause. Good point. As for the MSP, both before and during the Proctor-led investigation, his immediate supervisor, Buchanan, provided his annual employment reviews. True to form, despite knowing firsthand the extent of Proctor's unlawful conduct, bias, and bigotry, Buchanan, which I have a picture of this guy here, repeatedly and falsely wrote that Proctor has handled himself with the utmost professionalism and with strict integrity, and confirmed that they had successfully discussed MSP's policies concerning anti-harassment, sexual harassment, and discrimination and diversity, among others. Other times, the MSP simply looked the other way. For example, in February 2024, 4 months before Ms. Reed's first trial, the MSP was aware they had a problem specifically related to Ms. Reed's case. The Department of Justice had begun investigating the investigators, and on February 1st questioned Proctor in a grand jury proceeding about text messages he wrote in which he called Ms. Reed a C-word, among other bigoted comments the Department of Justice had found. Proctor was also questioned about his texts at 11 p.m. on January 29, 2022, that House defendant Brian Albert would escape scrutiny in the investigation because he's a Boston cop too. Further, Proctor was confronted at this grand jury about texts from Julie Albert to his sister, Courtney Proctor, asking to give Proctor a gift for some implied favor he did for the Alberts during their interviews for the case. On February 4th, 2024, Proctor had a meeting and told the highest level of leadership at the MSP, Colonel John E. Mon, recently retired, And Lieutenant Brian Connors recently retired, and Major Leonard Copenrath active about his testimonies to the Department of Justice, including his text messages. They did not terminate him, they did not immediately ask for his phone, and did not immediately investigate his bigotry. They knew it existed and where to find it, but they didn't want to, at least until Ms. Reed's trial was over. Indeed, they tried to hide it from Ms. Reed and the public despite initiating an internal affairs investigation in early March 2024, before the jury in Ms. Reed's first criminal trial was even impaneled. It was not until Ms. Reed's defense counsel found out about these messages and then used them during the public trial that MSP concluded it couldn't ignore this any longer. MSP proceeded to falsely claim that it only became aware of the messages during the defense's cross-examination and finally terminated Proctor. While in Internal Affairs, MSP's Office of Professional Integrity and Accountability, OPIA, launched a probe led by Detective Lieutenant Kevin Dwyer to investigate Proctor's lewd text messages regarding Ms. Reed. The MSP inexplicably assigned two non-OPIA troopers, Major Benson and Captain Barrios, to perform cursory and brief interviews of the Proctors and Alberts, inquiring about their personal relationships with one another. The Proctors and Alberts were not confronted with any texts or social media posts depicting their decades-long family-like bond. No outside witnesses were interviewed. No cell phones were seized. No evidence was presented. It was not just reasonably foreseeable, but nearly certain that MSP's and the CPD's failure to use ordinary care in selecting to whom they would impart power would result in members of the public being targeted and severely impacted by officers' and troopers' elemental shortcomings. Put differently, the biased and corrupt investigation that harmed Ms. Reed was the natural consequence of MSP and CPD hiring and promoting biased and corrupt law enforcement officers, in line with their barely concealed willingness to dehumanize and condemn people. Coupled with their readiness to ignore and overlook objective evidence, Proctor and Goode began the investigation against the female outsider with bias and prejudice fueled by their bigotry. After Proctor and Goode launched the biased and corrupt investigation, other police officers followed suit and caused harm to Ms. Reed. Paragraph 55. After the start of the investigation, others in MSP and CPD also contributed to the unlawful investigation that stripped Ms. Reed of her constitutional rights. MSP and CPD are liable for the negligent hiring, training, and supervision of these other officers whose wrongful acts also contributed to the harm suffered by Ms. Reed. Specifically, as described in amended complaint, Exhibit 1 in the federal court action against Proctor, Buchanan, Brian Tolley, and the House defendants that are specifically incorporated herein, MSP's and CPD's employees' wrongful acts include but are not limited to: A. They were propelled by the House defendants' false statements, including that Mr. O'Keefe never went into the house. B. They failed to investigate any theory other than seeking to singularly focus on Ms. Reed to the exclusion of all other available evidence. C. They ignored that Mr. O'Keefe's injuries were consistent with a physical altercation and dog attack, and that no injuries were consistent with a vehicle strike. I should point out once again, this is the plaintiff's version of things, right? D. They intentionally sidestepped or wholly ignored fundamental investigatory procedures. C. They disregarded and failed to obtain pertinent interviews and other critical evidence from the House defendants that cannot now be recovered or recreated. F. Through Proctor, they secretly communicated with the Alberts on Proctor's personal phone, deliberately back-channeling those communications to circumvent his state-issued device and use Proctor's sister as a surrogate. G. They manufactured evidence to ensure that Ms. Reed, not their friends and fellow law enforcement officer, was blamed for Mr. O'Keefe's death, including planting evidence at the scene, on Mr. O'Keefe's clothes, and on Ms. Reed's vehicle to support the false narrative that Ms. Reed struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle, even though they knew Mr. O'Keefe's injuries were inconsistent with a motor vehicle strike and consistent with a physical altercation and dog attack. And H. They expressly encouraged flagrant abuses of power. Armed with the fruits of this fundamentally flawed and biased investigation, the Norfolk District Attorney's Office proceeded to prosecute Ms. Reed for murder, resulting in 2 juries rejecting the Commonwealth's charges and Ms. Reed losing her career, home, car, livelihood, and reputation. They have to put that in, by the way, because she has to have been damaged by this, right? There has to be damage in order for this lawsuit to be brought. They're saying the damage is that she lost her career, home, car, livelihood, and reputation. Paragraph 59. As Greg Connor, a 25-year veteran prosecutor in that office who is now seeking the role of district attorney, recently said of the Commonwealth's murder charge, quote, the reach exceeded the grasp, and, quote, I don't think there was another DA office in Massachusetts that wanted to prosecute Karen Reed. All right, the counts are negligence. We can yada yada this. They were negligent, blah, blah, blah. Count 2 is negligence to the Canton Police Department. The first one was to the MSP. I'll yada yada that. Count 3 is civil conspiracy against both defendants. I'll yada yada that. Okay, and then they say Ms. Reed respectfully requests a jury trial on all matters so triable. Here is the prayer for relief. Wherefore, Ms. Reed respectfully requests that the court grant her the following relief. A, enter judgment in her favor and against each relevant defendant on each count of this complaint. B, award her damages in an amount to be calculated at trial, along with pre- and post-judgment interest, costs, and expenses. C, award her reasonable attorney's fees incurred in connection with this litigation. And D, grant her such relief as the court deems equitable and just. Respectfully submitted, Karen Reed, by her attorneys, Alan Jackson from Worksman Jackson and Quinn, famous guy, and the person who represented her in her criminal trial, one of the people. The other was Mr. Yannetti. And also Aaron Rosenberg from a Boston, Sheehan, Penny, Bass, and Green, a Boston-based firm. And that was dated this very day, and then we get into exhibits. My goodness, that is explosive, man. Oh, I cannot wait to read what the response is going to be to this. I cannot wait to read. Oh my goodness, that was painful to read. Wow. Let's see. Susie Q, Gavin. So these two so-and-sos are indeed making cops seem bad. Yeah. They're bad people in every profession, but when you are empowered to take away a person's liberty and up to a person's life, think about that. When I was working towards going to the Nevada Highway Patrol Academy, which I was invited to, I was accepted into the academy. I ended up not going because my career path, like everything that I ever wanted, happened at the same time. Anyway, that's one of the things that they grill you on. You're like, we want to make sure that you have the personality, because you're going to be empowered with the rights to take away a person's liberty and even take away a person's life. So they want to ensure that you're mentally fit. And it was pretty rigorous. Apparently they didn't do that with these folks. Jules and me saying, I wonder what O'Keefe family thinks about this. Yeah, that's a great question. How do you think this would have went if she had a public defender? Great point. Great point. Jules and me said the state should settle. The feds have some wiggle room. So, oh, guys. So we're going to keep on this. We're going to be keeping on the Karen Reed case, man. We got two lawsuits, one state, one federal now. And we're going to keep on it. And hopefully you guys will be interested in it. But that's all we've got for today on this case. Despair not, though, my friends. We have got, my goodness, we've got some updates in the Nancy Guthrie case, the Lynette Hooker case out of the Bahamas, the Carmelo Anthony trial, and the weirdest case out of California where a dude got a 216-year sentence. We've also got some really good news that doesn't involve an animal this time. I've decided to go the human route, which is good. But before we do any of that, how about you and I hop into 3 questions, shall we?
3 questions with Gavin Fish.
Yowza. Okay, guys. In this segment, in 3 questions, I answer your questions that you send to me to the email address 3questions@gavinfish.com. 3questions@gavinfish.com. Spelled out, THRE, questions@gavinfish.com. I promise that I will answer all the questions, but I will do it 3 at a time, and I will do so, in the order in which I want, basically. Lynn says, before we get into that, we need some Wanda relaxation music. Wanda, can you just give us something relaxing? That's really nice, Wanda. The Fender Rhodes is a highly underrated instrument. How about you grab that harp, give us something. That was a good idea, Lynn Taylor. Thank you very much. All right, question number 1. Let me bring it up on the screen. Okay. From Angela. Angela says, I sometimes think you may have been a detective in your past life because of the passion you pour into cases. That makes me ask you, do you believe in reincarnation? Angela, I do not. I do not believe in reincarnation. No. I do believe in an eternal soul. But I have to say, I am a person that just gets passionate about things. I just do. I mean, I don't know how to halfway do something. I either full on do it and go, it turns out I don't like this and stop, or I just full on do a thing. I don't know how to halfway do it. But no, I do not believe in reincarnation. Do you? I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Question number 2. Diane G. How can we ensure that technology is used for the benefit of all? Again, I am so sorry to answer the question and be a bummer. We can't. We can't ensure that technology is used for the benefit of all. That's, it tends to be. I'm trying to think if there's an example where that has not been the case. Even like nuclear has been, I mean, it's definitely been to the detriment of some, for sure. But has there been technology that has not been for the benefit of all? Like, for example, when I lived in Argentina, my beloved Argentina, in most towns where I was serving, there was like maybe 1 or 2 telephones, and there may have been some private residences in rich, families that I didn't know about that had a telephone, but usually it was like a payphone that you put a little feature in, and there was like a telephone in town. Now, like, I'm full on using social media, things like WhatsApp and stuff like that, to communicate with people in the middle of podunk nowhere, Argentina. So they got to skip directly to broadband from like just a little bit of telephony to broadband. They got to skip that. It's been to their benefit. And of course, that same technology is used against people as well. We can't ensure such a thing. It's against human nature. It sucks. But my philosophy on life is that human nature never changes, and human ideals do all the time. And this seems like an idyllic thing, right? The ideal would be to make sure that technology is used for the benefit of everyone. But the nature of a person fights against that. All right. And then from Zoe, what is your favorite memory with your wife? Okay. So I prepared for this one. I actually asked Kimberly, what is your favorite memory of us together? And she, of course, wanted to filter things down. Well, is it us with the kids? Is it us before we were married? Is it us without the kids? She was trying to. We make happy memories all the time, which is maybe my favorite thing about the family. We just make happy memories all the time. I've got so many of them. Specifically with Kimberly, just this past week, we bought a whole bunch of those inflatable paddle boards that are all over social media. They're cheap and they're fun. You pump them up and they're rigid and you can go out on the lake. You can stand up. Oh, well, my wife can stand up. My kids can stand up. I attempt standing up. I don't have my sea legs yet, but, you can go out on the lake and you can paddle around. And just this past week, we went out to the lake. It was just four of us, our two youngest, and Kimberly and I. And there we were in the middle of a lake. It's the kind of lake that only allows up to like a certain horsepower for boats. So it's usually like 15 horsepower or something like that. Everybody's moving slowly throughout this lake. And we're in the middle of the lake, sitting on our paddle boards, just like right next to each other, visiting. The kids, we can see them. They're playing on their boards. They're horsing around. They're jumping into the water. They're climbing back up. They're giggling. They're having a great time. In the meantime, Kimberly and I are just talking about life and talking about plans and talking about the summer. And, that's a beautiful memory that she and I have, sitting out in the middle of the lake on a couple paddle boards, just talking about us, talking about our kids. It was great. So, yeah, I have 1,000 of those memories. I don't know that I have. I mean, certainly I have four. We have five children, but I have four amazing memories of our children being born. Our last child was a bit of an emergency. That one is a scary memory. But I've got those moments, kneeling across the altar, um, going on our honeymoon, um, doing. We went to Europe last year together. We've got lots of those fun memories, but the the best ones seem to be the little ones. And yeah, guys, put your answers to the questions below. Do you believe in reincarnation? What were you in your past life? How can we ensure that technology is used for the benefit of all? Maybe you disagree with me. And what's your favorite memory with your Snuggly Bear Sweetie Pie one and only? I'd like to know. And while you are answering those questions, how about we hop into headlines?
True crime headlines.
Okie the doke. Let's see, where am I going? I want to go. We're going to start with Nancy Guthrie, except Acrobat is not working well. Okay, we're going to start with Nancy Guthrie. This from News Nation, written by Steph Whiteside. Could vehicle tracking crack the case? It's been 4 months since Nancy Guthrie disappeared from her Arizona home, and investigators are still pouring through tips in hopes of cracking the case. Authorities believe the 84-year-old mother of TV anchor Savannah Guthrie was abducted from her home in the early morning hours of February 1st. Retired Detective John Bueller told News Nation's Brian Enton the suspect's name could be buried in the thousands of tips investigators have already received. He noted a case in 1999 when 4 women were killed in Yosemite by Carrie Stainer, who sent investigators a hand-drawn map to where he left one victim. Investigators missed the clue for several days because it was buried in a stack of mail. Quote, when tips come in on a case like Nancy Guthrie's, they're prioritized as best they can, but you still don't know for sure if they're prioritized correctly. And so there might be something in there that we're waiting on that could break it wide open, Bueller said. It's also possible that answers may not come in for a long time if people with information are afraid to come forward. Quote, we had a random murder that went 11 years unsolved, and it was only because the one person that could give us the information was afraid to come forward. And it took 11 years for them to get over that fear, he said. He said he believes one person is behind the crime, mainly because of the large reward in the case. But because of that reward thing, this is a quote that really sticks with me. That's some pretty expensive loyalty to have for someone else, Bueller said. People that have independent wealth are not doing crimes like this. So, one aspect Bueller thinks could crack the case is tracking cars that were near the house or finding out who searched for Guthrie's address, noting that newer cars have tracking capabilities. If somebody ever plugged her address into a Google search for a Google Maps or whatever, if they did a reverse keyword search on that because those records are maintained for a period of time to see if any random person that would have typed in her address that had a reason to do it, and then you'd contact that person and find out why did you put in that address. So yeah, there's lots of possibilities moving forward on this, and I hope they figure it out soon. In the Lynette Hooker case, which we talked about yesterday, written by Luke Barr and Emily Shapiro for ABC News, Lynette Hooker's daughter, Grateful Coast Guard, is conducting new search in Bahamas. The daughter of Lynette Hooker, an American woman who went overboard in the Bahamas and vanished 2 months ago, who reportedly went overboard, let's say, is grateful a U.S. Coast Guard dive team is on the scene conducting new searches. She has to be somewhere, so all the help that we could get, it's greatly appreciated, Hooker's daughter, Carly Aylesworth, told ABC News. The Coast Guard Investigative Service, which is leading the investigation, received permission from the Bahamas to send U.S. divers to areas that were previously not searched. And these areas, by the way, are being searched because there's digital forensics pointing them there. So, let's see. Aylesworth says, I'm happy they were able to get Brian's location and discover new areas to look. She said, I know they're working very hard. So that's what's going on there. Court TV and the Carmelo Anthony trial started today. Lauren Silver writes, hundreds of people swarmed a Texas courthouse trying to get a seat inside as the trial of a teenager accused of killing another student at a school track meet began. Carmelo Anthony, 19, is charged with the murder of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf, who was stabbed at a track meet in Frisco, Texas on April 2nd, 2025. Anthony has pleaded not guilty to the charges. His attorneys are arguing that he acted in self-defense. Blah, blah, blah. Anthony had been at the tent belonging to Metcalf's school when the attack occurred. Worski, who's the prosecutor, said that multiple people in the tent told Anthony he wasn't allowed to be there and asked him to leave, to which the defendant allegedly responded, move me, make me. Metcalf, trying to be a leader, stepped up again to ask Anthony to leave, the prosecutor said. Carmelo taunted him until Metcalf took the bait as a young man and went to push him, Worski said. As soon as the stabbing happens, Carmelo takes off, running fast at first, and then slows down and tries to blend in and slip out of the front gate. Worski said that the victim didn't realize he'd been stabbed immediately and lifted his shirt to reveal a gaping wound to the heart. When other students followed Anthony and pointed him out to officers, he allegedly began pleading, he touched me first. When officers took Anthony into custody, Worski said Anthony told them, I'm not alleged, I did it. He touched me first, without even being questioned. Anthony's defense attorney, Mike Howard, told the jury that a lot of the noise surrounding the case had been completely false information. He described the defendant as an A student with a 3.7 GPA. Okay, that's a B student. Holding down 2 jobs, who was on the varsity track team at the time of the incident. When Anthony arrived at the track meet, his attorney said it began to rain. Anthony's school was the only one at the event without a tent that day. Howard said that Anthony initially went to the other school's tent to have a conversation with someone he recognized when he was suddenly asked to leave by strangers who were much larger than he was. Self-defense is useless if you wait too late to use it, Howard told the jury in his opening statement. In that moment, when Austin makes the first physical contact, Anthony reacts in a split second of fear and chaos. So it's a self-defense defense. We'll see what happens there. Guys, on Crime Cod, California killer gets 216-year sentence for extraordinary violent murder. This written by Kate Bird. Dateline San Diego. A California judge sentenced a 42-year-old man to 216 years to life in prison for the September 2023 shooting, dragging, and burial of a man in San Diego. Kenneth McNally Jr. was convicted of first-degree murder and multiple assault charges for killing 59-year-old Samuel Holthaus, according to a statement from the San Diego County DA's office. A passerby discovered the body hours after the killing when they saw the top of Holthaus's head protruding from the ground. Holthaus had an extension cord wrapped around his neck. At the time of the killing, McNally was on probation for attacking a dog with an axe. He had also attacked several other people in the area in the days before the murder. Early on September 3rd, 2023, McNally intermittently stayed in trailers in the El Cajon region, residents told police. Anyway, just you can read the rest. The link is in the description below. Just a ghastly crime, and I'm glad that he will never see the light of day again. Hey Wanda, can you give me some cool music again? Just a little bit of taking deep breaths. We're going to transition. One more, Wanda, one more. Yes, we're going to take some deep breaths, and we're going to do some good news. Wanda, do you have some good news music for us to listen to? Wow, you're really going after it, Wanda. Oh, that was the extended cut, Wanda. Thank you very much for that. Sherpa missing for a week on Everest found alive. Guys, this from the AP News. Binaj Guru Bachara. I cannot pronounce. I'm sorry. I butchered that name. Dateline Kathmandu, Nepal. A Sherpa guide was found crawling to base camp on Mount Everest a week after he went missing and was reunited with his family, who had given up hope he would return. Dawa Sherpa was last seen around May 29th descending the mountain, but he did not reach base camp even though his client did. The pair were among the last climbers on the mountain as the climbing season came to an end and the route was dismantled. Dawa was located by a cleaning crew Thursday morning as he was crawling down the snowy slopes around the Khumbu Icefall just above base camp, said Pemba Sherpa of 8K Expeditions, which coordinated the search. He was quickly carried down to safety and given food and water. A rescue helicopter flew him to Hams Hospital in Kathmandu, where his wife and daughter, who already had begun funeral rituals for him, were waiting. Quote, we first heard that he was still alive on the local news and from a person we know who called with the news that he is being brought down, said his wife, Damu Sherpa. Though Dawa had been missing since last week, there was a delay in organizing a search team. No reasons were given for the delay, but when helicopters were finally sent to look for him, they could not find him. His family had given up hope. Dawa's teenage daughter, Mendo Lamu Sherpa, said they were on the second day of a funeral ritual which lasts for several days. Quote, when we first heard about it, the rescue, we could not be sure if that person was indeed our father, Mendo Lamu said. So to be certain, we asked for photos to be sent, and only then we were sure and very happy. Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome indeed. Made it down alive after spending days on Everest. That is definitely good news, and I'm glad that we get to end today's live stream on a good note. Let's before we go though, let's just check in. Let's just check in to see what you guys are saying over here. Lynn Taylor, oh yes, we did your Wanda relaxation music. Debbie says your nose itches when you're upset and uncomfortable. I've noticed. I also have a deep voice that rattles my mustache, which tickles my nose. Yes, indeed. Let's see. Keep on going. Let's see. Elizabeth McMaster says, I think Shirley MacLaine Ruined reincarnation for me. AI terrifies me ever since the Terminator movies and Hawaii trip with my hubby. Oh, those are your three things. Okay. Shirley MacLaine ruined reincarnation for you. AI terrifies you since the Terminator movies and your memory is a Hawaiian trip with your husband. That's awesome. Debbie says that's a photo memory moment, talking about our lake moment. Yes, indeed. Three Doxies, One Prince. That was quite disturbing about the Karen Reed filing. Got me fired up. Thank you for the coverage. We all need to do good trouble, don't we? Yeah, let's all be good. Let's all be good. That's a good way to end. Guys, thank you so much for spending your time with me tonight. We will be back again tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on this channel. If you're new, be sure to subscribe. Please click the like button. Please share with people that you think would like this kind of content. And with that, I shall bid you adieu. Thank you for being here. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.